Hello, my name is Michael Jeffries, and I'm going to show you my game from the 2003 US Open here in Los Angeles. It was my first win over an expert, and for 1700, anytime you can beat somebody over 2000, it's always a big deal. In the game, I had the white pieces, and my opponent, Rubin, had the black pieces. I opened the game with d4, and my opponent played d5. We both fighting for the center. I developed my knight to f3. He played knight to f6. I played pawn to e3, and you can see the beginning of the Colle opening forming. He played pawn to c5, attacking my d4 pawn. I don't want to take that. Rather, I just want to support d4 with pawn to c3. He played e6, and then I bring out my light square bishop to d3, and there we have the Colle set up with the good features of the nice bishop on d3 and the knight and my strong d4 point. The bad feature is the bishop on c1, but it's blocked in for now, but it'll see action a little later on in the game. My opponent played knight to c6, developing his queen's knight to its best square. I played my queen knight to d2. He played his bishop out to d6, getting it on a good diagonal. I castled, and then he chose to take in the center with c takes d4. It's playable. I just capture back with my e-pawn. E takes d4, so I have a half-open e-file to work with. He castled, and then I put my queen on e2, getting it off the back rank, and also trying to slow down e5 by black, which he would like to play, and open up the game for his bishops. That's why he played rook e8 on the next move, and now he's threatening e5, which I do not want to allow, so I played knight into e5 and just blocked it. Now, I know he's not going to take that knight. He's certainly not going to take it with the knight on c6, because after knight takes e5, pawn takes, and we've got this fork here. Winning a piece, so that's not going to happen. And I didn't think he'd want to give up his bishop, so I'm pretty sure he wasn't going to take. So he just dropped his knight back to e7, and I supported my knight with pawn to f4, and he played bishop to d7, getting it off the back row. And I played an unusual move for me, g4. Pawn to g4 looks like it weakens the king a lot, and in the past I would never have made such a move, but I realized that in this position it was the correct move, and I'd seen other people do it, and I just knew that I had to attack on the king side while his pieces were stuck over on the middle of the board, kind of cramping him. So g4 it was, sound the charge. And he played g6. Maybe he's worried about pawn to f5, I don't know, but I was happy to see that because it creates more weaknesses. I developed my knight to f3, putting it on a better square, knight d2 to f3. He played a6, mysterious move. Why pawn to a6? Well, you'll see why in a second. So I just tucked my king into the corner, because at the time I thought my rook should go to g1, putting it opposite black's king. And so that was the point of the move. He played rook f8, maybe guarding f7 a little more. I played rook g1, and he took in the center, bishop takes e5, and I took back with the f-pawn. So now I've opened up the diagonal for my bishop on c1 to h6, and he has to move his knight because it's attacked. So he dropped it into e4. Now, if you look, I can take that knight and win a pawn, but I quickly realized that would not be such a good pawn to win, because after bishop takes e4, pawn takes e4, queen takes e4, suddenly his light square bishop, which was completely out of the game, has a beautiful diagonal down the h1, a8 diagonal towards my king, and the knight can jump into d5. It has a square, so I didn't want to do that. That did not look tempting, so taking the knight was off, so I just developed my dark square bishop to h6, attacking his rook, and he played queen b6. He says, take the rook if you want it. I didn't really want it at that point. Even though the rook is 5 points and my bishop is 3 points, I realized my bishop was doing a lot more in keeping his king kind of bottled up. Then I played my knight into g5, improving that piece, and he played pawn to f6, attacking the knight, and then I realized I pretty much have to take the rook now. I'm kind of forced to, so I played bishop takes, rook. He played rook takes on f8, and then no problem, just pawn takes pawn, and after knight takes pawn, I bring my a rook over to the f file. And somebody was after the game saw me showing someone this game, and they said, "Wow, it was a good position White has. Usually you have to sack a piece to get that." So I was pretty happy with, took that as a compliment that I had this great attacking position. My rooks, my queen, my light square bishop, my knight on g5, all of the pieces around Black's king, and really he had no attack at all on me. He played h6 here, attacking the knight. I just calmly dropped it back to f3 because I saw I could go to e5. We were very happy. He played king g7, and then I went ahead and dropped my knight into the e5 square and just got this great attacking position. He played bishop to e8, guarding g6 again. I decided to stack my rooks, so I play rook f2. And now this was the point of his a6 move. Several moves ago, he wants to trade off my powerful light square bishop. There's nothing I could do about it because it's now pinned to my queen, but I realized I didn't mind because he's going to have a really bad pawn structure after bishop takes bishop, queen takes, and yeah, he's getting the queens off, so he's probably not going to get mated, but after queen takes queen and a takes b5, his pawn structure is looking pretty bad, and I just played a3 to stop those pawns from going anywhere, and now he's just got horrible pawn structure. After that, he played rook to e8. Not really sure why. I doubled my rooks, rook g to f1, because that's where the action is on the f file. He dropped his knight back to g8 to support his f6 knight. I tidied up a little bit with pawn to h3, guarding g4. He played rook to f8, and then I realized that if his rook ever moves off that file, I've got a little tactic, and you'll see what happens. King g2, and now he did it. He moved his rook off the f file, and I noticed that if I could get a rook to f7, it'd be very nice for me, and found a way to do it with this nice move, knight to d7. And after knight takes knight, my rook on f2 sails in to f7 with check. His king went to h8, and then I took off the knight, and now I'm threatening to bring my other rook down to f7, not interested in the b7 pawn, it's not going anywhere, and with my rooks doubled on the 7th, his king isn't long for this world, so my opponent graciously resigned, and that was it. That was my win at the 2003 US Open, and beating my first expert with the Colle